Good morning, everyone. Loving the music this morning. We need that little start sometimes. Welcome to another episode of Cut the Shit with Genius. Always happy to be here with Dahlia and Michelle and just have the opportunity to chat about all kinds of things and mostly to hear from those of you who are watching, who we call our geniuses. You guys always have such great comments, so many things to contribute. And we know that you're doing great work in the industry. And this is such a fun place every week to just come together and cut the shit. So today's episode is going to be extra shit-filled. Whatever, however you say it. The theme for today's episode is cutting the shit on cutting the shit. So let's just get real here. We have been talking, this is our 25th episode, first of all. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
I think, Michelle, you said it this week, and I was like, no, it's not. No, we have to. I feel like we've done this like 10 times.
I follow spreadsheets, Liz. I look.
I should follow spreadsheets for many other reasons.
Yeah, 25. Wow.
I can't even believe that. But I think it's a good time for us to just be real about what we're doing here and what difference it might be making. I feel like we've had so many great conversations, and then but sometimes it's like rapid fire. You guys are coming out with ideas and I'm like, yes, we should do that. We should do that. We should start this company. We should, it's like, I'm curious, like how much of what we've been talking about is causing change or causing people to think differently. So we really want you who are watching to tune in and like use the comments and let us know what you think. But maybe we can start with just talking about our favorite topics that we've discussed so far, whether it's an episode or just something that came up in an episode, and what your thoughts have been. Because I know for me, sometimes we talk about something and then it lingers with me for weeks. You're like, I gotta go back to that. So what about you, Dahlia? You're like in a cool narrow location right now.
I am. Good morning, Rachel. I was thinking that, this is very appropriate timing because it's the end of the year and other professionals, event profs that we know are really trying really hard on saying, okay, what new things am I going to do for the new year? And you get into this like hamster wheel of, ideas. Do you talk yourself into it? Do you talk yourself out of it? You get inspiration from like us, for example, and you get so pumped up and you're like, I can do this. And then all of a sudden you think of all the work and you're like, no go, And I speak for myself, but I know you, Liz, where perfectionism can kill any type of like wow or energetic moments that you get, especially from talking with others. I know Rachel's the same way too, but I honestly think there's going to have to be a time, and this show is proof of that, where perfectionism aside, and you do cut the shit, and you're like, we're just gonna do it, But I think people need to do more of that because it kind of feeds your soul in a way. We get on here and we're like, sometimes Bruno's in the dark, or like, it's like not even sunrise, and in your mind you're saying, oh my god, yet another, and then after the 30 minutes you're like, holy shit, that was awesome. So I think the challenge is going to be not only having the ideas, but how do you get it so others feel that same energy ongoing. I mean, 25 episodes, but like, how do you keep that going? Because it's hard. Everybody's like super fatigued right now. So I don't know if I answered your question. I can tell you about like what my favorite webisode was, but I can do that later.
Yeah, we can talk about that later.
Well, I can talk about what my favorite two were. I really loved having my niece on the program as our lifeline. Just talking about the possibility of, as people that convene others, what kind of sort of social change we could affect and when it's appropriate to, boycott or not boycott, or, steps that we can take to, I don't know, exert whatever influence or pressure we have on local government or municipalities or just other people that might be listening. And I don't know if I like that episode just because it makes me feel better about thinking about it is not doing it, but thinking about it is at least the first step. So that was really a good episode for me. But the one that really blew me away and knocked my socks off, and I am still thinking about, was our webisode on sustainability. I just, and I don't know what you call that syndrome where when you're thinking about it or you come across something, then you see it everywhere. I think maybe as women who've had babies, that is what happened to me. Like everywhere was like, things about babies when I was getting ready to have one, sick babies and, you know, what could happen to babies, that was like always top of mind. But hearing Richard talk about what we could do as an industry and what drastic measures we really need to take to get caught up and be, zero carbon by a certain year, that it just really, like, even thinking about it gives me a little knot in my stomach about how close to the edge we really are, how much we can do and should do. So, and then right after that, I went into the encore presentation at IMEX, which was about sustainability. And I was like, okay, the universe is talking to me here. I need to really like change up my game. So that was the two that resonated.
That one episode about sustainability was, I think, my top also. But I think out of all the episodes, we've had so many good ideas. We've cut the shit on so many different topics. But that one in particular, I think we were really talking about completely like rethinking what is the purpose of an event and how can we bring people together, and getting away from these huge events where people travel from around the world to them and then therefore have these big impacts on sustainability. They're just so full of waste, just flights alone, let alone all the other things that come with it. And I think that was now it's like almost like every time I see an event like that, I just can't wrap my mind around why it's like, oh, why are we no, we have to do something different. And it's been sparking all these ideas around like, what could we really do? I think William in that episode was talking about like smaller
Very well.
niche, more local things, regional events, really thinking about like, what would that look like for an organization to do that?
Mm-hmm.
That I think was really inspiring to me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, with the sparked ideas that we've had, with our lifelines, our guests, and with each other, as well as with our geniuses, I would love to hear from Karen and Rachel. How do you get those ideas to stick so that that it's not only in your head, that it's not only like in the comment thread
Yeah.
here on this platform, for example, or it's between us. Like, how do you take those ideas or your own ideas and have them spark internally for for your team, for your leadership? Because I honestly think that if we don't foster the idea or a way of having these like sparks happen within an association or an organization, those people are going to leave. And if you don't decide that you need an incubator of some kind, or like a way where you are, no pun intended, sustaining these new ideas and actually discussing it, seeing if it's going to work, if it's not, faster than ever, you're going to have people just say, it's not in it for me. So like, how many people do we hear that they're going to go to an event, and when they see what's happening and it's not sustainable, they're just going to say, I'm good with staying virtual. Like,
Yeah.
and it's a message, but I know that like we try rapid fire we try, giving all these insights and do things different. But I also feel that if it's not something that is um, permissible by the leadership of these organizations or these event organizers, at least to entertain, but also to show that that the others that have the ideas are being listened to, they're just going to bounce out of wherever they are at and just do their own thing, which is not a bad thing.
I was thinking this morning, like, it's been 10 years since I've worked inside an organization, and I was at a university, which, from an innovation standpoint, you definitely can't say that they were doing very interesting things. But I was thinking this morning about this topic, and I was remembering that they used to have what we called proposal season, which like maybe big companies do this. I don't know, but it was one time a year where everyone in the team had their opportunity to put forth as many proposals as they wanted about things that they wanted to do differently. And we had to fill out a specific form. And it made you think through your ideas a little bit. Like, what's the budget really going to look like? What would this impact in from a revenue standpoint? What would it have an impact from a staff management? How many people have to be involved in this, and what is it going to take? But then it gave us an opportunity to put out our creative ideas, and then everyone would sit around the table, we'd read them out loud, we'd share them. You could co-author them with other people, especially in other departments, if you felt like that made sense. And then there would be a final decision on which ideas they were moving forward with. And I used to hate that time because I didn't like having to put my ideas down on paper and like go around. I thought it was a very political process. Like, okay, you're going to make me write this down, then you're going to say no. But looking back, I was thinking at least they were putting it out there every year, that there was an opportunity. Like, okay, this is a down season for us. For us, it was the end of the school year. Everyone put your ideas in, and some of them, of course, did get selected and got moved to fruition. And I was thinking, I wonder, do you ladies know, is this something that organizations actually do? Or how do people actually get their ideas out?
Okay, so back in the day, it was called a suggestion box,
Oh, okay.
and people could put in ideas all year long or complaints anonymously or whatever. Okay, I heard about this. I never worked anywhere where they had one, but I think that's the concept you're alluding to, is just like, yeah, make it easier for people to speak their mind and come up with creative ideas. The problem with that is that sometimes it enrages the suggester when the ideas aren't adopted. And
Yeah.
we know that that still exists because when we have exhibitor advisory boards or attendee advisory boards or whatever, they get mad sometimes if you don't do what they're suggesting that they think is a great idea. Like, hey, I've been in situations where we're talking about what speaker should we get, and they're just like, hey, let's invite Barack Obama. Let's, what can it hurt? If we just like send a letter, he'll probably really resonate with our organization's mission. I'm like, okay. And I think so, you know,
Yeah. And obviously there's not unlimited budget. So there are, not every idea can get taken. I was that person who was always offended. Like, what? You took someone else's idea? My idea was way better. That's
yeah.
just, but in our small team, I know that we kind of get inspired by books, like I'll read a book and then I'll say like, hey guys, this is a really interesting book. And then we'll all read the book. And like today at 11, we have a call just to talk about how we could implement that book in the business and what could we do to refine the process. And it's not like a formal book club or anything. And sometimes it's around a conference that we went to or an idea that we had, just anyone can kind of bring that to the table and say, let's try this. But like Dahlia said, it has to be something that the leadership is not just saying is they're open to, but that there's a formal process
Yeah,
to bring these.
because so the infamous suggestion box I've had in two previous companies, not at Dahlia Plus. But the problem with the suggestion box is it lands with HR because they think it needs an owner. So you have to also consider who's owning the suggestions. Like they have to be more in the energy business of the business, meaning it can't be someone who just hears the bad things. It can't be
Mhm.
someone who's just tasked with, solving the shit problems. You know what I mean? Because then those innovative ideas will go absolutely nowhere. They will be misunderstood, and it will be where it's where it will just fall on deaf ears. And that's where you get like disgruntled, Liz saying, "You didn't take my idea. What is it in the bottom of the suggestion box?" And but the thing that we have to be careful of is it can't lessen your light or your energy, because if you believe in something and it's going to kick ass, at least try to have those um, people that can hear you, that can actually know where you're coming from.
Mhm.
Do you know what I'm saying? Because like
Mhm.
we feed off of each other. Like, Bruno and the Dahlia Plus team, they have actually a place in Google, land, where it's Dahlia's fire hose. And they let me live there. Once in a while, they'll entertain some of my ideas. And they could be shitty, they could be great, they could be crazy, depends on resources, budgets, etc. But the idea of entertaining it, that's like the first step. And I just don't want to have it where, granted, like we dish out so many different ideas here and so many different concepts, because we're trying to push people to like almost be in sync with their own innovation inside. Like my favorite episode was the neurodiversity one, the one
Mhm.
about neurodivergent, not because Aisha was on it, but because it opened your eyes to, we gotta work different. You have different people around you.
Mhm.
And guess what? Like, they can be the most inspirational, which they are. They can have amazing ideas. So how are you going to tell them, okay, stifle those beautiful ideas into a suggestion box? They won't even know what a freaking suggestion box is. But what I'm saying is, when you think of ideas, or when you're collecting ideas, think through it in the sense of who are your ambassadors, like who are going to be around you in order to tell you, yeah, you can do this, but in these baby steps, or no, that's shite, don't even, or team you up with someone who can actually help you figure it out, and you feed off of them. And I honestly don't know, in a hybrid world. Ooh, I just said the H word.
You said the
Oh,
H
it feels
word?
dirty.
What?
Oh, gargle. Wash your mouth out.
Coffee.
Yeah. Whew. Oh gosh.
in
Those.
in a in a in a like in a remote world where you sometimes don't even know who your team members are, and so forth, you got to be super creative on who who you're going to use as a sounding board. Who are you going to go, like, who's your partner in crime on stuff. But I think I'm babbling, but I'm just trying to figure out for us going forward, if we do not collaborate with those that you thrive on their energy and on their advice, etc., this can be such a lonely world. I don't want to even think of that.
So I think, Liz, I don't want to speak for you, but one of the things that you wanted to understand is if we doing this is really helping anyone. Because the only feedback we really get is on the show. Well, that's not true. I mean, when we went to IMEX, people were commenting, but I speak from experience when I say I've probably written hundreds of articles over the years, hundreds, white papers, and that doesn't count like all the emails and just everything. And I could probably count on two hands people that have said, "Oh, I read that piece that you did. That was really amazing," or "I disagreed," or "It was a piece of shit." I mean, you get zero feedback. So, I don't know.
And I think, I'm in the same world, produced tons of content. Like, we do these big conferences, we do all these little monthly events, we do blogs, stuff like that. So I'm kind of used to like putting stuff out there. And similarly, you go to an event or someone's like, oh, I heard of Texi Talk, or I saw that event that you did, it's like, but to what extent? I'm always curious. Like, you saw it, like you tuned in for 3 minutes and like put a comment to say, I'm here, or you actually heard the content of what we're talking about, digested it, and thought about how you could, because before it even gets to the organizations implementing it, you need people who are lit up about good ideas enough that they want to go into the organization and really, like, you can talk all you want about totally rethinking an event. But if no one at these big shows really firmly believes that, and then to Dahlia's point, finds their tribe of people who are like, yeah, we definitely have to rethink this, those events are never going to change. They're not going to, unless you're waiting for the audience to just stop showing up. And then you watch the numbers decline to the point where the organization is forced to do that, which is, I think, what is going to happen, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, it's a question, I think, for us. Are we doing this? And like, it should be changing us too. I do think it is. I think that we have these conversations, and then I'm like, I go and talk to a client. I'm like, we have to think about this differently. Or I think about how we're doing our own events. But yeah, I am curious too, for those who are watching, does this really impact? Is it just like a fun conversation to like watch Dahlia, Michelle, and I chat for 30 minutes?
Banter
or decorate
and
or,
drop the S word and
or
like,
move to different locations.
Well,
or,
so maybe the question is, when is, instead of saying, oh, did you attend our show, or oh, did you attend, Liz's live stream and stuff like that, the question should be, so how did that impact you, and when are you going to take action, whatever the action is that you need to take. Because I don't know, like, have you ever seen on a survey, even at events, how did the event impact you, as a question?
Nope. Or at least not in that,
Like,
not even in that direction.
and the other thing which I wonder is, so impact is there's a cause and effect, but there's always emotion involved.
Yes.
It's like you go to IMAX, and I know this is the hugs and kisses, there's an emotion there. You feel the connection, right? And so the impact of anything that we do or say should have an emotional impact. I mean, emotional connection to it. So whether it, even the episodes that we just talked about right now, the sustainability. And Bruno, like, what was the emotion when you went into Break Free at IMAX? What emotion took over for you?
Yeah, I felt incredibly sad. That's the emotion. You walk out of there thinking, man, have we effed up?
But was that emotion like strong enough that you now are thinking all events, where's the sustainability? So it will make you have action, or at least to voice something has to be done because of that emotion, that sadness.
Well, I can only do what I can do within my sphere of influence. And so the answer to that is yes. I'm still talking about it. If I have the opportunity ever again to organize an event, then yes, that would be at the top of my list, over and above like cutting out red meat or whatever, all of the food preferences. Sorry, Tracy. But yes, my answer is yes.
Well, so I guess what I'm trying to say is, I mean, I would love to know, are we creating an impact on our listeners or our viewers? And if you can shoot it back to us on LinkedIn, on email, whatever, pigeons, smoke signals, it doesn't really matter. But the other part is, if you've been impacted by a certain discussion or a eureka moment or something that we've shared, what change in action are you going to take from it, as well as what was that emotion that you felt when you heard it? Is it like, man, I would love to have XYZ within our organization. Wait, maybe I can stir the pot and make it happen, for example. Or a lot of times I've been people have reached out to me saying your show is like so spot on. You like voice stuff that's in my head, and I want to launch my own thing. And there's a fear factor there. You know, we've been through it. All three of us have been through that fear factor of like, go do you, right? And it's like, holy shit, you're asking me to really just drop everything and do that kind of thing. But what I'm saying is use the whatever inspiration, whatever you want to call it, impact to create that launch pad that you need, or else leave. I mean, like, leave the organization, leave where you're at, and go where it's going to make you feel better.
Employers across the industry are turning off LinkedIn right now. I remember a certain person that in 2010 I was having a discussion with at an event, who was talking about, I'm here at this job and I'm not happy and I want to go off on my own. What do you think I should do? And I'm like, yeah, do it. I wonder what happened to her.
Yeah.
So I think maybe, I might have had some impact that day. Or it was just like a pile on of, all the other things that that person was already thinking.
Well, so this is where, we push people, right?
Mhm.
And I think that is a success point, I would say, for the Cut the Shit show. If we're pushing you, or we're pushing, like, thoughts that you've had, but we're like putting something around it, there's a wrapper around it, right? Yeah, we'll push you. Rachel's been pushed so many times, it's not even funny. So it is fun watching you. Yeah.
On one side of her body.
Oh yeah, yeah. I also find this is not only useful from a business point of view, but sometimes I can draw life lessons from your chats. There you go. Boom.
Problem solved.
Problem solved.
Mission accomplished.
Because I was afraid we were just going to keep talking until someone chimed in and said yes.
Yeah, we won't shut down.
The world to me. I mean, I've got another probably hour till my next call. Let's just anyway. I think there's also an element of the greatest compliment is really, we don't need to know, but just pay it forward. If you get an idea and you can help someone else solve a problem, then do that. That would be immensely gratifying. And I'm just going to sit here and think that maybe some people have already done that and I don't know. So.
Yeah. And, part of this conversation is to encourage organizations to think about how they can create a pipeline, because I do think, to Dahlia's point, there are, many people, myself included, who were in an organization or are in an organization, and they have these pushes to change things, and they're not being given any kind of way to make an impact, and they will leave. So yes, instead of the employer shutting off LinkedIn, they should take that moment and just think, what should we be doing differently? And creating a path for people is one thing. The other thing that I'm thinking about while we were talking is, Dahlia asked you about the emotion that you felt, and then will that cause change? And I almost sensed like a little bit of hesitation in you, that it's kind of like, well, I can only do as much as I can do. But I think a lot of people feel that way. It's like, I have great ideas, but like no one in my big organization cares about this. So I will, for my events, import the impact, change something, but I can't say anyone else's. And I think it reminds me to go back almost to the episode with your niece and think about, like, we were talking about organizing people for a cause outside of our industry. But I'm thinking, like, we should apply those same lessons to within our organizations and really think, like, if this is something, let's say sustainability or neurodiversity, that I'm really passionate about, how could I use those same tools to get more people to see what I'm seeing, the impact that it's having on our business, on our industry? That to me is a really important lesson across the board, not just for making political change, but then feeling like you have more of a voice than just, this is important to me, but I don't think anybody else cares.
Yeah. Okay, I'm really bummed out now.
Don't
Good.
be bummed out. You know why you shouldn't be bummed out? Because I think what we also are creating is just people that have found a tribe.
Hmm.
So this is more of, you're not doing anything in silo. You're not alone. Like, you are thinking as others are.
Yeah.
And Bruno, you are an instigator, so there's nothing to be sad about. There's
I
just
guess
more work to be
yeah,
done.
there is a lot of work to be done. When I look across the, years that I've been in the same industry, which is pretty rare for a lot of people, and I see how little has changed, it is a bit disheartening.
But
I
I
mean,
think
I
the
thought,
transparency and the openness and the willing to change, as well as the willing to just pipe up and say, yeah, that's not okay, is going to be faster now. It's going to be, it's a bigger conversation. It has more space in the room, if you know what I mean.
mhm.
People are questioning things now louder and more visible than they did before.
And what's crazy is that the organizations that do wonderful and creative things, Money 2020, TED, all these things, they are revered in our industry. So why isn't anyone, really trying to usurp that position by making such, deep changes and thinking differently and stuff like that? And the people that speak out and, are sort of countercultural figures, people follow them. So I think there's, evidence, social proof at least, that doing things differently actually resonates with people. I just do not understand why people don't do more of that.
They don't want to be uncomfortable. They don't want to risk the revenue that they already have. They don't want to change because there's risk associated with change. So these organizations pop up as new organizations. They're not old organizations that are changing. They're people who have a great idea who are like, let's try this. And they have, because they're building something new, they can build it towards what they want. And people are breaking off and starting their own companies and becoming thought leaders and influencers because they weren't making the change in these bigger organizations who are simply not willing to be uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, I think it's just that's the writing on the wall for the big organizations. If you don't make yourself uncomfortable, you're only going to last so long. At some
Mhm.
point, the money's going to run out and it's going to be too late for you to make that change because
Definitely.
you're waiting for someone to just, you know, do it for you, I guess, and prove the case on the revenue side. It's not going to happen. And instead, these people who are willing to break apart and try something new are the ones who are really going to be rich 50 years down the line. And maybe they'll be the big organizations that then won't change and they're still doing the same thing they did in 2022 that made them look so cool while all these other new organizations are popping up. It's just
Mhm.
size. It's like these big events. Once you get to a certain size, it's just too risky to change. That's the sad
Karen,
reality.
Karen said it best, where she's like, louder but just noisy.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I think Karen gets us. Like, Karen really gets us. She knows us.
She's our tribe.
Mhm.
Yeah, Karen's right here, like right here.
So, kind of to bring it all full circle,
Yep.
we've done this 25 times, plus the half a time
25 and a half
that
times.
was,
Yeah.
yeah. And what do we think? Should we go for 25 more? Are we just gonna see how it goes? Should we change it up? What do you wanna do, ladies?
Dolly, I'll let you jump in then.
I'm
It's not
keeping
like a
as
big
is.
review
Like,
or anything. I just felt like, "Oh gosh, now we have
we're
to say."
going for 2,500 more.
I think when we started, we weren't necessarily expecting the world to
What
change in 25 episodes. It
No,
was
what I
about
yeah.
bringing our different because it's basically that we were talking about this stuff offline all the time, bumping into each other and saying like, this should change, this should change. But again, part of it is not going to change unless we all make more noise with it. And so this is a way, and we might have to share 2 billion ideas before a good one really makes a change in a big organization that makes a big change in the industry. I'm okay with that. As long as we're sharing ideas and giving space for our geniuses to contribute. I think that's a big thing.
That
It's not
is right.
about our ideas. The majority of this show is letting other people share that tweet that they might not ever be able to say in their organization, or, come away with an idea that they wouldn't have thought of if they weren't talking to other people.
Good enough.
Yeah, I say 2,500 more. And I also would love to see
I don't know.
You'll be on a beach in Puerto Rico with sangria in your hand, and we can still pipe you in. It's no problem. The beauty of technology, Bruno.
We're gonna have to do these daily if you want to do 2,500.
So, but the other thing that I would also love to hear from our listeners is if once in a while they would like to do like a town hall kind of session, like a discussion, maybe, for like 45 minutes or so, not recorded, but just like have at it with like certain prompts, etc.
How would that work, Dahlia?
The old-fashioned Zoom way, where we are in a Zoom room and we can do breakouts by favorite topic from past episodes. We could also do safe spaces where it might be those that want to take a detour in their career, or they want to leave their organization because they're not being heard, or they want change faster than the leadership. And we can create safe zones for them to figure out how to help them out and have them voice their opinion or do the launchpad idea. We've all been there.
That'd be cool.
Cool.
Yeah, that would be great. Well, we are late, of course. I know you ladies have tons to do, but thanks for entertaining this conversation. Who knows where it will take us? And hopefully we will hear from more of our geniuses who will share things that they're thinking about. And yes, let us know about the town hall idea. I love that idea. I have to share this banner. I always have to click too many buttons. Continue, please. Let us know what you guys want us to talk about. Let us know if you want to join us on the show. We like to chat with each other, but we like to have geniuses join us on the show, not only for these town halls that Dahlia is talking about, but to pick your brain live. We'd be happy to do that. So let us know if you're interested in doing that. Good feedback, negative feedback. We thrive off all of it. As you can tell, we're not shy about, addressing things that need to change. So thanks to all of you who are watching, Karen and Rachel and so many others. Dahlia and Michelle, thank you for your time. I know you're both very busy, but
so are you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We will see you next week. Episode 26. We shall carry on.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.